Last year, Taser International landed a no-bid contract with the city of Albuquerque for its growing body camera business, the technology at issue in the latest fatal shooting by Albuquerque police. Now KRQE reports that former police chief Ray Schultz was talking with Taser about a consulting gig after his retirement while he was still working with the city. And Mr. Schultz wrote in an email before a council hearing on the pending contract that, quote, "Everything has been greased, so it should go without any issues," end quote. He also told Taser he would have the ear of the mayor and city officials after his retirement. Mr. Schultz is now a consultant with Taser, and city councilors want the city's inspector general to investigate whether Mr. Schultz violated the conflict of interest ordinance. We hope to have Mayor Richard Berry on our show soon to talk about APD and the DOJ report, but right now we have a great line panel to discuss this latest development. Joining us is one of our regulars, Rob Nikolewski of the New Mexico Watchdog. Another line regular is back at the table, Daniel Foley, former House Minority Whip. Also with us at the line table is former Democratic State Senator Eric Riego, and it's great to have you back. And we welcome back Antoinette Cedillo Lopez, former law professor and now Executive Director of Enlace Comunitario. And I'm very congratulations from everybody here to you on that. Now, Rob, the former chief told KRQE his actions did not violate the ordinance. Let's get to the ordinance first. On your read on the timeline, did he or did he not walk into a gray area at the least on this ordinance?
At the least.
There you go.
Yes.
Yep.
At the least. There's a whole bunch of questions. This seems to be getting worse and worse every single week. The other question I had sort of out in left field is, if we're buying these tasers, not just the tasers themselves,
right,
but also the camera that tasers use.
In the cloud storage,
right.
The whole bit. Yep.
As far as the taser itself that zaps you, if we've got these things, why weren't they used in the Boyd shooting? So to me, there's this thing just...
Were they in fact used a couple times? Do I recall reading that tasers were tried and he had the big thick jacket and it didn't quite work out?
Well, maybe...
One of a suite of things that they tried.
I don't know
to use?
about that one. But
right.
yeah, but this whole thing just brings up lots of questions. The other question is, if we're buying tasers, not just the thing that zaps you, but also the camera, why aren't we using them?
Right. Right.
You know,
we'll get to that in a little bit too,
right.
Sure. Eric, I have a question about process when it comes to council. This is a no-bid contract worth almost $2 million. How does that happen? What is the process there that there has to be other fingerprints on this, it seems to me, this contract, besides Ray Schultz. We're all laying this at his feet as if he like snookered the city, right? Somebody had to approve this as well.
Well, I'm surprised that, to use his word, it was greased, which means that, that somehow they got it past council. That's when those tough questions are supposed to be. You know, the former government we have in the city is, you know, we have a strong mayor, but the most important role for the council is at least to have some oversight when they, even if they don't have the votes to change anything, to ask some tough questions. And I'm surprised it made it past because it's a clear violation of the procurement code.
It's clear to you?
Oh, it's absolutely clear to me. There's no way. There's no way. The grease part's what worries me, and I think some tough questions need to be asked about where was the council oversight on this, because I can't imagine that this kind of contract sort of slides through with nobody asking a question.
That's yet to be unfolded, isn't it?
The other important thing is, you mentioned the inspector general.
Sure.
The part of the problem is, you know, we passed that back in 2004 when I was on council, and it has been systematically watered down since then, and that's part of the problem. There's a lot of work to do with police oversight, but if we had a real inspector general with real authority, with a real budget, with strong subpoena authority, some of these issues wouldn't be squeaking through the way they are.
Exactly right. Antoinette, good to see you, like I said, and also on this idea of the smell test. Does this pass for you? Or does he have a little wiggle room for you? Either one.
I don't see the wiggle room.
Okay.
I think that this is just a real problem with accountability, which is this is just another example of the accountability problems. Where is the accountability? And you talk about the council oversight. You're right. The council needs to have the ability to review these kinds of things, but it needs to be brought to them. So there's accountability levels in the contract, there's accountability level in the approval process, accountability level in skirting the process. It's really problematic. And unfortunately, accountability is a theme right now. My advice to the mayor and the people charged with kind of reviewing everything that's going on is don't focus on the defensive mode. Focus on fixing it. And I think the heart of it is accountability.
There you go.
Where is accountability?
And that goes down the line to the street officers as well, with accountability, right? It has to start at the top, it has to radiate all the way down, which means turning on the cameras. If you have a camera, you turn it on, but nobody seems to pay a price, Dan, for not using the camera. For $2 million of taxpayer money, Shouldn't we have the right to ask for better than this for $2 million?
Well, it seems the cameras do get turned on whenever they help advance the police officer's claims or the agenda. Right. It's whenever there's a sticky situation, they miraculously happen to forget to turn them on. And that's what frustrates the public, I think, is that, they seem to always, in the 11th hour have information that says we were right, here's the video, but whenever everybody goes, we think you were wrong, well, the video didn't work, the camera wasn't turned on, the person wasn't trained correctly.
Right.
I think that's a problem. I think we also have to remember one of the key things about this no-bid contract with the former chief, clearly a poor choice of words. But I think to try to lay this anywhere other than the city council and say, how does this guy send an email that says it's greased? At some point, someone had to have
implies
asked.
something, right?
Right. He actually probably talked to
Right.
somebody.
Yeah.
And the last time I checked, it takes more than one or two people to get something through the city council. So there had to be this meeting of people of him talking that agreed to do this. It'd be interesting to know what he said. Maybe there's a valid reason for it. Right. Maybe if he steps forward and says, hey, these are the only people that could do this. Right. Everybody else was 5 or 6 times the amount of money. It's understandable, but
there's something greasy about it.
But there's something that's not right. That right after you leave, you get this job. The job part doesn't bother me as much because I get it. It's a large city that's using their product.
Sure.
That's the person you want out at conventions. That's the person you want out talking to other.
It's credibility.
That's
for
right.
the company. Sure.
If you're looking
But
at most of the
it's
towns.
on the Albuquerque taxpayers'
That's
dime, though.
that's the big question.
I think it speaks to the larger cultural problem at APD and the leadership. Sadly, Ray Schultz was around for a lot of the more egregious stuff that happened under various mayors, and there was a real lack of accountability in his part. And if down the chain of command, what you're seeing is sort of this, we're going to sort of pick and choose which rules we want to apply. It's real hard for a frontline officer to know, well, am I supposed to follow the rules on this one? Am I not supposed to follow the rules? You have the top sort of fast and loose with what the rules are. Right. And I think that this is a problem that goes to the leadership at APD that really has to be fixed. And the shootings and the civil rights violations aside, I think there are serious cultural issues in terms of how APD manages itself. We were trying to reform the POC in 2002 and got shot down, not just by the Democratic administration at that time, but also got shot down by the police union. They just don't want to be
And it's not
held
just
accountable.
it's just not an APD problem. One of the things that jumped out at me with the DOJ investigation was, I was thinking, okay, the DOJ is coming in, they do this once every 25 years somewhere. They're like everywhere. Right. This is like all over the United States. Yeah. This is not just an Albuquerque problem. There seems to be a problem with police departments throughout the United States. And I think it begs the better question, which is, it seems like anybody wants to stand up and question how the police operates, you're automatically anti-police, you're automatically pro-criminal, and you're automatically putting people in danger. And it seems that whenever these conversations arise, the police officers, the unions, those organizations run right to the lowest common denominator. But we have to remember, I'm not defending Marty Chavez, but you got to remember Marty Chavez and the mayor before Marty, which was Baca, there was a huge push to get more police officers. The public said crime's too high, go get more people. They went out and tried to get more people. They couldn't pass the test. What do you do when you can't get people to pass the test?
Let me ask
Lower
you
the
this.
standards.
Let me ask
And
you,
it's
Rob,
hard
this.
to change a culture.
Sure, absolutely, I agree with that.
But it seems to be nationally.
That's true. That's true. We're under a minute here, Rob, but is it fair to say there was a bit of go fever here? Meaning we had a problem. The chief, the mayor, the administration, everybody wants to find a problem. Oh my gosh, here's this company that has lapel cameras. We'll just send them a bunch of money, we can help solve this. You see what I mean? Didn't really vet it quite well. Just a lot of go fever there.
All this is coming after the Boyd shooting. And it's you've got to have some credibility on something that's important as public safety.
Right.
And there isn't any credibility right now. And I'm a big believer in cameras. I think that lapel cameras, I think also people, you see lots of cases across the country of someone who gets pulled over, a citizen, who pays the taxes for the police, who's getting roughed up because he wants to record the policeman.
That's
now, I think that if you have cameras everywhere, then you can clear a lot of these things up. And I think most people will give the police the benefit of the doubt, but they've lost that here in Albuquerque.
But what's funny, Gene, is at the end of the day, there's talk about the oversight committee being by the public and nothing but pushback saying the public doesn't understand what we do. We don't understand what you do, but we pay you to do it.
There you go. Coming up, we talk with a member of the Police Oversight Commission who resigned earlier this month.